Welcome to Warblog. Today we're looking at El-Wak, 2018 Kenya. Interesting scenario. I was in two minds whether to include it. But essentially what happened here was some Kenyan units. Now they talk about El-Wak as though it's in Somalia. It's around the El-Wak area, so I've put them in these areas here, but they sort of enter into Somali territory. The Somalis mistake them as Al-Shabab militants, and essentially there's a sort of a gunfight. It says there were 3 technical vehicles from Kenya, and 1 Somali security officer was killed. 1 Somali security, that's exactly what I said. But of course it's a case of mistaken identity, and it's just a small thing, and I like to keep these in here because it's hardly a game, and it's as small as they get. I've had that small ones before, but you sort of think, well, you know, incidents like this could precipitate greater things, or not. But there's still incidents like that. I mean, how many incidents of mistaken identity are there through and through? You know, I mean, there's friendly fire, that's one thing, but this is where they've both mistaken each other for militants, and the militants aren't there, and a person dies, etc., etc. So I've included it for its sort of, I mean, I don't just include everything for the sake of it. It depends on how I feel, but nice, easy scenario to build. But it's unusual and sort of warrants a little interest for that reason. So essentially, in the rules I've sort of stipulated that I don't think you really want to attack, because they're only going to be one-to-ones. I don't think that's maybe what they're doing. But what I suggest is 2 rounds of attrition and see how that works. Now, I don't know how 2 rounds of attrition are going to work, but we're about to find out. So essentially these Kenyan troops are coming in, and presumably the Somalis react, and so we're going to react, but I'm only going to do attrition. We could play a game where we do actual combat and point 2. So we know that the Kenyans didn't lose any men, so perhaps they've disabled a vehicle, and they crashed into a straw hut, and pigs are running around and people are shouting rude words, something like that. So that's our first round. And so now the Kenyans think that they're under fire from the Al-Shabab, and the Somalians thought they were under fire from Al-Shabab, so they're responding, but they're not going in for the full thing, I don't think. It's just attrition, so it's sort of like they're firing at what they can see in the distance, vehicles presumably driving around, or people in bush lines, maybe, you know, a few hundred yards away, or more. You know, the things that happen, you know, I've watched a couple of these videos, and you can hardly ever see where people are shooting. It's not like a Wild West shootout where people are, you know, you can see them hiding behind buildings. They fire long distances over, you know, open ground into hedgerows, and you don't know who's there. So maybe that's what's happening, and this is just them firing long range and with maybe a mortar or 2, maybe not. But they've not done any damage against the Somalis. So it's sort of working the other way around here. So the Somalis, now that they're under fire, are going to return fire again without success. And now the Kenyans are going to return fire again, but now they're dug in without success. So essentially you could almost, they got 0.2 damage, so we'll leave it at that. Now they realise that they're not Al-Shabab, and presumably wandering off to deal with the damage. In this case, the Kenyan forces were the only people to have lost something, and it could have been that they lost the security officer. When bullets are flying, anyone can be hit, and anyone can be injured accordingly. So in this scenario it happened the other way around. But so that's game over. So much so that I think what I'm going to do is play it again using full combat, because we've only done 5 minutes. So again, Somalia going to go first after the Kenyan technicals enter their territory, so to speak, or their line of sight, thinking that Al-Shabab. But this time we're actually going to do an attack, not an attrition. So that was an exchange. So quite a lot more devastating than the exchanges we had before. Now these people are going to, the Kenyans are going to similarly now try and attack the Somalis, pushing them back. Now in this instance, I think we can say that was where the security officer was killed. We're not going to sort of follow it through, although we could. The problem being how. I mean, in this instance they've been pushed back. I mean, would they really want to go forward and cross the border? Now they have in the Rhodesian campaigns, and you know, probably a lot of others, the process of hot pursuits where they'd be engaged like this, and when the Al-Shabab militants ran away, they'd cross the border in hot pursuit following them. And so we could do that, moving into there and following through in hot pursuit. And a DR. They don't have enough to move out, and it's probably best that they stay in there, but they're not going to follow back through. Now they're at 50%, so they've taken heavy losses there, really, at 50% effectiveness. So again, we can leave that as it stands. So it's interesting, really, because they're both exactly balanced. The Somalis could have got the upper hand in this. In this version, the Kenyans got the upper hand, but you could play that again and again and it would go either way, which is quite interesting, really, because the odds, what were the odds? 1 to 1, they're actually quite difficult odds to actually achieve anything with. What were the other ones? See, this was the first 1 to 1 where they got a DR. They got two dice rolls of 3, so that was quite unusual. They did very well in that instance. But that's it, really. So I'm not going to sort of do it again and again. I think it's an attractive little map, and it's interesting when you can make quite a lot out of very, very little. And so, you know, even if you just learn, you know, the proximity of Kenya and Somalia as an exercise in this, you've gone away a little wiser. I mean, for veterans, you probably already know where Kenya and Somalia are in relation to each other. But, you know, El-Wak, border town, El-Wak, El-Wak airport, etc. You know, it's the point that goes like that. You know, improving your geography of Africa, etc., etc. But that's it. I'm gonna leave it at that. Upload that, etc., etc. Hope you thought that was interesting, and I will speak to you later. Cheerio. Hey.